Before we begin this episode, I want to thank the Spoiler Force patrons for their patronage. Thank you to Mong Her, Orion Vang, Lor Su Yang, and Yilang Lee. Thank you guys for the support.
This is Mark Witten.
This is Adam MacArthur.
This is Ann Yatko.
Hey everybody, this is Michael Yurchak.
This is Erica Harlicker.
This is Daquan Wilshire.
This is Rico Fajardo, and you're watching.
And you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast. Set your heart ablaze.
All right, so this is episode 127 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. This week's guest is a Muay Thai fighter. I believe she's one of the first fighters that I've had on the podcast here. But what's more amazing is that she is a Hmong woman. So this was something that I was looking forward to having on the podcast and to speaking about her experience as a fighter as well. So let me just bring my guest here. Maita Vang, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
As we were just talking earlier, I'm glad to have you on, and just being able to speak with you. I followed you and Warman Muay Thai through Van Brooks. I don't know if you know him. I know he worked at he worked at the at Warman, so I only know of you guys because of him. But I think for me, you stood out because I don't think I've ever seen especially a Hmong woman like go out and fight. Are you professional or are you still amateur?
Just still amateur.
Still amateur. That's still something though. Like I think you're one of the few that I've seen. And recently you won your last fight, right? So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So just for the fans and followers who do not know, what made you decide to go into Muay Thai kickboxing? Can you kind of explain just how you got started into this?
Yeah. So let's just backtrack. I started training with Coach Kou. He is the owner of Warman Muay Thai. So I started training with him. I'll say it's 7 years now, because it was in 2015 when I started his it was like a woman's cardio class type of thing, and then eventually I decided to just join a class, and it was through a friend. My friend, his name was Ping Her, and he was into bodybuilding and stuff like that. So he actually shared half his gym. The size of the gym was very small. So half of it, the other side was just weightlifting, and the other side was Muay Thai. So when I went to check out the gym, I initially wanted to do just lifting weights, but then I saw I looked at the other side and I saw that they were doing Muay Thai, and I was like, hey, this looks pretty cool. I want to do Muay Thai, and I saw there was only 2 girls in there, and one of the girl in there, she's a good friend of mine now, but her name was Jessica, and I saw that she was the only one there, and she was kicking ass, and I said, wow, I want to be like her one day, and so I decided to join in 2015, and it was just just more of just cardio work, once a week, twice a week kind of thing, and then I kind of stopped for almost a year or so, and then let's see, and in 2017, that's when I went back to Coach Kou, and he was kind of moving around gyms a lot, and we didn't really have a gym at that time. So 2018, that's when he asked me if I wanted to try competing, but it wasn't like a real competition or anything like that. It was it's called smoker fight, meaning you have no experience. You go to these kind of things just to gain an experience and understand how it feels like to be in a ring. So I did my first smoker in 2018, and then 2019 was my first tournament fight. So yeah, and just started fighting 2019, 2021. So about 2-3 years now, 3 years.
Yeah, that's great. It's kind of like that for most combat sports gyms. It's always a curiosity going in there. I did some grappling and a bit of MMA when I was younger. So I never competed, but I got to spar and train with folks who did compete on an amateur level. And it's a huge step when you go into these kind of gyms, just going in there, just trying to stay healthy, and then kind of the competition builds as you train throughout the years, and you kind of you're either going to stick with training or you're going to find a spark or some sort of inspiration to go and compete. what was I guess was combat sports something you followed at all, or you just jumped right into it?
So you know what? I actually like did not care about it at all. Like I had like no like I didn't care, no curiosity or whatever. But I just had like friends or people I knew who watch MMA, like, and they watch boxing. So like during the time when I was just joining for cardio work, you know, Manny Pacquiao was like huge, and then you know MMA, UFC was huge during that time, and a lot of people were like, "Are you going in for MMA?" I'm like, "No, I'm just doing Muay Thai. You know, it's not MMA. You know." So yeah, that I did not know anything about it.
So would that be something that you would eventually would like to cross over to? I know with Muay Thai is more, it's all stand up and striking, and then
Mhm.
there's of course, the some of the big competitions like Glory and whatnot. Is that something that you're aiming for, or are you going to try to venture out to like more MMA or grappling at all?
So with MMA grappling, I don't think I would uh, be interested in doing that. Just because I feel like it's a lot of work. Like even me training as an amateur, it's already a lot of work already. And MMA, it's mixed martial arts, so it's all types of martial arts, which I feel like I really only like Muay Thai and kickboxing, so I just kind of want to stick to that. Um, my coach always said like he want to build someone up to fight in glory or like be a professional fighter, fight for one championship if you've heard of them. But we'll see how everything goes for the next year or this year, how everything is.
I think that'd be pretty cool if you are able to build yourself up to like even one FC, because there's a lot of I like
Hmm.
one FC only because there's so many Asian fighters out there, and
Right.
they promote that a lot. And there's
Hmm.
also the their unique weight cutting system that they do over there. Instead of like dehydrating
Yeah.
yourself, they make sure that you're hydrated and
Yeah.
you're fighting in a healthy weight versus cutting weight and then regaining that water weight.
Right. Hmm.
And I guess since we're on this topic now, I mean, when you cut weight for Muay, I don't know the exact weight classes for Muay Thai because I don't follow Muay Thai that deeply. I do know about some fighters, but for you, when you're cutting weight or trying to make weight, how
Hmm.
you don't have to go into detail about the process, but is that something that you were prepared for already, or you kind of had to like just learn as you went?
I just kind of learned as I went. And when my first fight, I I didn't know anything about it, but you know, my coach just kind of like guided me. Just had to make sure like I was in the gym 2 to 3 times a day, work out every day, like weekends, no rest. You still have to work. Like even when he says it's rest day, but really he's telling you you need to do like 6 miles on the weekend, or you need to jog, even though he said it's rest day. So yeah, I have no idea. Like I didn't know anything about weight cutting or whatever, but it's hard if like I've been eating because I like to eat. Okay, so like when I eat a lot and I drink a lot, like water or whatever, then I gain a lot of weight, just like water weight. So like with that, whenever I do have to cut down, then it's my own fault because I gain weight. But it's hard cutting if I don't watch what I eat or drink. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have that problem when I was in wrestling. I love to eat, and so I could have cut weight down. I actually, from what I could have done, was I was able to cut down naturally down to like the lowest was 147 where I weighed naturally.
Ooh.
I could have cut down
Mhm.
way less, but I didn't like to do that because I like to eat, so I never did. So every time I would
Yeah.
grapple or wrestle, I had to verse like people who are, cutting down and then jumping up that
Mhm.
following day. So they're a lot bigger than I am. And I guess for
Mhm.
you, Maita, is that kind of the same thing for you? Are you fighting at a natural weight, or are you actually cutting down to something that you can make and then kind of fluctuating back up?
Yeah, I have to cut down to uh, a much smaller weight just because I'm short. So like I'm 5'2", and I usually walk around like 127, 130, and even at like well let's say 120, 122. If I want to fight that weight class, the girls I'm fighting they're gonna be a lot taller, and I've already experienced this already. I think I fought like 122, 120, might have been 127 before, like 122, 127 weight class, and these girls are like 5'9", 5'10", 6 feet. So
Oh wow.
yeah, you gotta have to like yeah, so like for me being 5'2", like the weight class I should be fighting is around like 110 to like 117.
Oh wow, man,
Mhm.
that's a big cut. I didn't.
Yeah.
Is that I know that's a tough cut, but is that how does that like when you're going through that kind of strain, like mentally, how are you being prepped for that? Is it just something that you're just toughing out, or
Yeah.
like I
It's just
because weight cutting is terrible. Like in all sense, like weight
yep.
cutting, it's terrible. Like mentally, it's so
Mhm.
straining as a competitor. So I can only assume for you, like when because I know that cutting for men and cutting weight for men and women, it's the bodies are different. So
Mhm.
for you, how is that? You know, is it much more tougher for you because of that?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's tougher for me. Like, and so I'm the only woman that's competing on the fight team right now, and then everyone else, they're just like men. So like they have a lot of weight to cut, right? Like let's say like 30 pounds. I don't have that much. I probably have like 20 or 15, but it's it's so hard for me because women we have our menstrual like our period, right? So with that, like we gain a lot of water weight, and then it fluctuates. So when I'm trying to cut, I have to like watch out for this because if I don't, there'll be days where I'm bloated or I gain more water. So it's like exhausting. I kind of had to like see where I'm at, to kind of understand my cycle and understand how to cut. So I feel like being a woman is a little bit different cutting compared to men. Yeah. And plus,
I
like, wow, when I'm cutting too, when I'm like really dehydrated and during my cycle, like I remember I went to the sauna and I was like, okay, I need to sweat this off. Even when I went into the sauna, I came back and I was sitting down, like my body, I was just so dehydrated that I feel like my body soaked up the sweat because I went back and I stepped on the scale. I'm like, what? I gained like 0.2 ounces. Like, oh my god. But it's just
man, that
hard.
is. Yeah, that is. I can't imagine just going through. I like I said, I hated weight cutting, and it was so dreadful. That's why I just stayed natural. But then it just
Mhm.
it screwed me over at the end, like competing against people who are like almost twice my
Right.
size. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Like I would like to fight at like 125. I mean, last time I fought around there, and then it's 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 great for me. I don't feel like exhausted, even though you get like a day to like kind of like replenish, rehydrate, and everything. But when I'm cutting down to like 115 or like below 115, like I'm just so exhausted. Like for the fight, mentally and physically, and I'm exhausted for the fight. But when I'm just trying to fight around like 127, 125. I go in there, I'm fine. I feel great, but I just have to know that the girls I'm fighting are going to be really tall, really, really tall. And they look big too. I'm like, Jesus, you guys have abs and you guys are big and tall like me. No.
I kind of want to just bring this back a little bit here. So Maita, you've been training for a few years now and competing for a few years now. How did your folks handle that, knowing that you were going in there and pretty much just fighting and possibly
hmm
making this a career out of this? Was this something that they supported you on, or was this something like because I don't know if your parents were supportive, but most Hmong folks would not, especially having a daughter, would not want their
Yeah.
kid going in the cage or in the
Yeah.
ring
Yeah.
fighting.
hmm Yep. It's true. My parents, they were not, when I told them, hey, well, I'm doing my first tournament, and they're like, what is that? Like, well, I'm gonna go fight. Like, what are you gonna fight? Like, why are you gonna go in the ring and fight and get hurt? You want them to punch your pre-face or whatever. And I was like, just like, don't worry about it. Like, this, of course, everybody's gonna get hurt, but like being a Hmong daughter, my parents were always like very strict, and they were always like, um, sports wasn't like a big thing to them. Like they were always more like academics, like go to school, get a career from school. But they weren't ever like they didn't understand, sports and things like that. So and like my dad's always like, well, you're just doing this in amateur, you don't get paid, so don't do it, don't waste your time. But that's just they say that because they're just worried. They don't want me to get hurt. Who wants their child to go in
Yeah.
and get hurt, right? But so now, like fast forward from when I first competed in 2019 to now, they're more supportive. Like they wouldn't. They of course every day they'll tell me, "Don't fight. I don't want you to go fight." But when I do go fight, they tell me, "Good luck. you better win. Make sure you win. They say those kind of things. So they understand how much it means to me, like sport wise. Being like it's like good for me mentally too. So they understand like, oh yeah, this is something that I enjoy doing. So they can't tell me no. But of course they're gonna tell me, don't fight. We don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah, I think my dad, he would say something like, when he found out I was training or trying to train for MMA, he's like,
Hmm.
if you want to get your ass kicked, Ricky, I could just do that for you. My dad would say
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that for me. Like, why would you go in there and have them beat you up? I can just do that for you. I'm like,
yeah.
that's
It's
like
so funny
that's
because
different.
yeah, that's the same thing my parents say too. Like, what? Like, I could just do that for you. I'm like, what? Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I remember like when I would just like wrestle for high school. Like my folks didn't
Mhm.
go to any of my meets. They couldn't watch me go in there. But I do agree with
Yeah.
what you said, man. Like that moral and emotional support coming from your
Mhm.
folks, even if it's in a combat sport, like that helps a lot. That boosts your morale so
Exactly.
much when it comes to just competing.
Mhm.
It's great to know that your parents do support you now.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll always be your parents, but it's great to hear that and to see that
Mhm.
they're able to help you with this career, because there's not a lot of Hmong folks. I mean, there are Hmong folks competing
Yeah.
in combat
Mhm.
sports, but for me, I've always wanted to see a Hmong person like strive in, whether it's Muay
Right.
Thai or grappling or MMA, like to see someone finally get their spot, because now that there's a huge wave of Asian fighters going in there,
Mhm.
excuse me, there's a lot of like Chinese fighters, a lot of Korean
Mhm.
fighters out there getting their name. Of course, the Japanese fighters doing shoot boxing, but yeah, I know that there's other Hmong competitors out there. I've heard of Kyle's Vang. He's an MMA
Yeah.
fighter. I follow him. There was uh oh man, what's his I can't think of his name around. I'm blanking on these names. My God. um, and just just seeing people like you and these other fighters come in, it's very it's something that I'm proud of, because I think when
Mhm.
I remember seeing, like, when before the lower weight classes would come into MMA, I hated seeing the Asian fighters lose because they have to go in there and they're so
Yeah.
stocky, and they're fighting dudes who are naturally much bigger. But now that there's smaller weight classes, I always thought that it's better for, like, at least for Hmong folks to fight at these
Yeah.
smaller weight classes.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, Maita, as you're training, was there ever like days that you had that, that you just wanted to just quit at all, whether it's during
Yeah.
fight camp, training, just like regular training days or anything like that? Have you
Mhm.
encountered that at all?
Yeah. Good thing that you asked that. Like every training camp that I'm in, because you're weight cutting, um, so you're like mentally exhausted, and when you're weight cutting, you just hate everybody. Like you don't care about anything. Like the last week, right? The week before the fight, you just hate everyone. You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to smile. Like you don't even want to joke. And usually that week is like the most, like you get all these your nerves and your jitter, and you just think about, oh dang, like do I really want to fight? Do I want to do this? You have all that, those like doubts in your mind. But it's always like that every fight. And I realized like I'm not the only one. I'm not the only fighter that goes in that have these thoughts or doubts. Like it's been good that I talked to other fighters before, and they say they experience the same thing. They have doubts. They have things that days that they just want to quit during like training, or like even during like the harsh like weight cut. um, but it's normal. It's natural because every day everything's always like, it's changing. Everything's always changing for you. Like your mind, like your thought or whatever. So I feel like just learning that other fighters feel similar to me too. Like I'm not alone. But yeah, there are days where I don't want to go train. I just want to stay home. But the minute I step in the gym, like it's like okay, I want to train now. It's just the fact that if I get myself to the gym, then I'll train. If I'm just at home being lazy, then I don't want to train. But yeah, there are days like that where it's hard. Like I just like just want to give up. But I like Muay Thai, so I feel like I need to be there.
Yeah, I think it goes for not just combat sports. I only ask this because I watching so many athletes go through this same process, cutting weight, fight
Mhm.
camps. You know, there's so much self doubt, and then especially when you start going up towards like the higher ranks and start
Mhm.
building your brand. There's also like the social media stuff going on. There's also like
Oh
whether there's
yeah.
interviews or whether there's like trash talking during fights. Some people are trying to sell fights, some people
Yeah.
are just assholes. I guess for you, Might have you encountered that at all? Even though it's just amateurs, have you encountered like opponents who would mentally try to trip you up just by trash talking or just saying some ridiculous shit, or have you ever
Mhm.
done that to someone?
Oh yeah. Like so. Fortunately, I haven't like met anyone. I think maybe like the I feel like the Muay Thai community or like they're very humble. So the thing about Muay Thai is it's all about being humble and respectful. I haven't encountered any like any fighters that I fought that were like rude or would trash talk. Like we when we step in the ring, you know, we just kind of like say hi. I don't know. It's like a thing where we just wave at the corner and say hi, or and then at the end of at the end of the round, and we hug and we say thanks and everything. And sometimes, like if we have the time, we'll go up to them after the fight and chit chat, talk to them about how's life or like where where did they like come from. Because sometimes I have fighters that they actually like come from like Canada or like somewhere else. So it's kind of like good to just talk to them and ask them like where they're from, get to know who they are. And I ended up being friends with a few on Instagram too. So I think for me, I'm fortunate that I haven't met anyone that trash talked to me. Um, this I mean, like even during like weigh-ins and stuff, like we're all really nice. Like the girls that I fought, like we just say hi, like how are you doing? Like are you doing good? That's it. Like I haven't encountered, and I don't do trash talk because I don't know. I just don't think I just don't do trash talk. I mean, if I try to, I don't think I'm good enough. Like, I understand why people do it. Like you said, like sell fights, like boxing. They do that. They do a lot of that in UFC. They do that too. But it's just not me. I don't. I don't know. I just don't trash talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't much of a trash talker. I've encountered some folks who would try to like do like mental intimidation where they would
Mhm.
not so much at the weigh-ins, but definitely when you're walking around them and they would say like or murmur something towards me.
Oh wow. Mhm.
Yeah, but it never bothered me. But then like
Mhm.
it's just you feel that tension there. But I guess you know I see like now, especially with MMA, like a lot of usually there wasn't much of that in the women's competition sports. Like a lot of it, like you said, a
Mhm.
lot of it came from like it's very just they keep to themselves. But now that with with these mic skills, selling fights, and you're able to brand yourself by doing that, I see a lot more
Mhm.
women able to do that. Like Joanna, like she fights at UFC,
Yeah.
in the UFC, and she was selling the fight and saying all that stuff, and it's just I what are your thoughts on that? Like just seeing like not just Joanna, but like people like Connor or Mayweather being able to
Yeah.
just sell
Mhm.
fights through their words, and then it's just as a competitor, do you feel like that does that irk you at all or get under your skin at all, or
Mm, I think if let's see, if I was never in this sport, right? I would probably think it's annoying. Like that's, I would be like, oh, that's annoying. Like, why would they feel the need to do that? But because I'm in the sport, like I kind of understand why they do that. Most of the time, like for me, trash talking, it doesn't harm anyone, but it just boosts like like the fighters, like like morale or make them feel better about themselves, confidence, and sell tickets. But I don't know, it just doesn't annoy me. I feel like if you can talk if you can talk that shit and back it up, okay, good. Like Mayweather, okay, yeah, that's
yeah.
Mayweather's and Connor, all those that you just mentioned, they're great. Like they're good fighters. Like even Joanna's a good fighter too.
Yeah.
All great fighters. So if they can back it up, they can back it up.
um when you're watching the combat sports, do you ever find yourself like I guess mentally like coaching, or what I'm saying, like like when you're like for me,
Yeah.
like when I watch like these fights, I'm like, oh man, they could have just done that, or like I'm
Yep.
not trying to like say like they could do that, but like you notice
Uh-huh.
all their moves that they're doing, or when they're in the
Mhm.
clinch or just in striking, watching their foot, like their distance in between their feet. Do you ever catch yourself
Yeah.
like doing that, like breaking down these fights?
Yep. Always cornering, like Like even though you're not there, like you're like in the back shouting, "Do this, do that," cornering. Like I'm watching them on the TV. I'm always doing that. But yeah, I think it's always good to kind of watch fights because you get to kind of understand and see like how people do in the ring or in the cage, so that you could kind of put it in your mind, like, okay, this is something that I should work on too, or this is something that I shouldn't do. So I like watching fights, just kind of like what you said, like break it down as well.
I saw a video that you had on. I don't know. I don't think it's yours, but there was a video of you on YouTube with one of your matches.
Hmm.
You fought in the cage,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and then your last fight you fought in a ring, and
Hmm.
fighting. Like, not a lot of folks know this, but there is a huge difference when you're fighting in a cage and in a ring. For you, how was that experience? Like, did you have to? Were you training to adapt between the two, like the two, I guess, floors, or like even just like
Hmm.
with the ropes and or with the cage? Like, how was that for you?
So like I'm used to training in the ring, so I understand like the whole four corners and everything and how to move around it. When I first fought like in the cage, it was kind of it was different. It felt different because there's like the cage, and if you hit, it kind of hurts you too. Even though like at that moment you may not feel it, but later on you feel like, oh, like what is this pain that I'm feeling, and it's from the cage, like running into the cage or hitting yourself at the cage. So that's something that we kind of have to be aware of in the cage for like Muay Thai, but when we're in the ring, it's different. Like the ropes, it has. I feel like when you're at the ropes, you kind of have like some advantage if you know how to use the ropes, because the ropes kind of have like this like bounce back. So when if I was at corner at the ropes, right, and then I'm bouncing back off the rope, I can bounce off of it and do some type of like combo or whatever. So with the ring, you can't do that. I mean, you can't
Yeah,
do that in the cage, so it's different.
yeah. I would think like just being pressed up against the cage too. Like it'll be harder to
Hmm.
kind of like step out or to kind of like
Yeah.
weave out because for the person that's pressing you, it's a little bit easier for them to kind of just shift with you. But in the ropes, if you're in the
Hmm.
corner or like with the ropes, like you said, having it bounce back and forth, you're able to move out a lot easier
Yeah.
and duck under a lot better than being on the fence.
Yeah, I do feel like maneuvering around the ring is easier too, compared to the cage. Because I fought in the cage twice, and one of them was, um, it's because those two fights had MMA in there, so I was the only kickboxing card. Me and that girl had to fight in there, and then the other cage was also because MMA fights were going to be after us, so we had no choice but to fight in the cage to do Muay Thai. So with that, I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. So my coach always tells us to go into the ring or the cage to kind of get a feel of like the bounce in there, so we can get used to it when we do go fight.
Is there a difference in the canvases of the ring and the cage?
Mm, I think let's. I can't really tell if there is a difference, but I feel like the canvases, they're like pretty much the same. I
Is
know
more
that when
about
I
just like the
compete,
walls then, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think when I competed in like IOF for the tournaments, I'll say like the canvas in Iowa is slipperier. Like I feel slippery, but that's pretty much the only comparison I can say. But everything feels pretty normal.
If you want to start your own podcast like Spoiler Force, then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users like me to begin their podcasting journey. With easy to use tools, you can effectively get your podcast onto different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view your stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and will also support Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want a simpler way to record both video and audio for your podcast, then sign up with StreamYard. StreamYard is the perfect program to create podcasts, host live streams, and even do video calls. There are many tools that can help you create and design your own personal studio. You can screen share, read live comments, and stream to different destinations like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also download your video and audio once you're done with your recording session. Follow the link below, and once you sign up with the basic or pro plan, you'll earn a $10 credit to use for StreamYard. Happy podcasting. Have you ever considered, I don't know if you have, but have you considered, I guess, going overseas and training in Thailand at all?
I, I did have that thought before, but I just feel like because I'm getting older now too, I actually don't feel like I have that time to go and compete there. So like I told you, we did move to a new gym, and our gym is a lot bigger now, and
Right.
our main focus right now is to focus on the kids and the teens, because I don't know if you heard, but like kickboxing, and it became like an Olympic sport now. So
Yes.
we want to push these kids and teens so they can know that they have opportunity to go compete in the Olympics. So that's kind of like what we really, really want to focus on for our young generation. So right now, like I don't really mind training hard and going to Thailand, but that's just like not a goal of mine now. I just feel like I'm getting old and I just don't have the same like drive of going there anymore.
Well, that's a good answer though. Yeah, it's a great thing you brought up the whole Olympic sports because
Mhm.
kickboxing and Muay Thai have been, it's always been a professional sport, but we've never seen it in the Olympics scene. There's always
Right.
taekwondo and even wrestling and
Mhm.
fencing of all things. Like that's all Olympic sports. So like to see that Muay Thai and kickboxing is being in this in a bigger like view for the audiences too. I think that's great to see
Mhm.
that. Um, you know, if if you could compete in the Olympics, would you go do it though? Is that something that you would like to do, or if you could do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. If I could, right? If I,
Yeah.
yes, that'd be great. Like, we did talk about this too. Like, my coach, he's fought for glory, Kou Lee. So we're like, wow, if only they had this opportunity back then for you guys, kickboxing, Muay Thai in the Olympics. Like, so many Hmong people already probably would have had the opportunity to compete in the Olympics, because there's a lot of other Hmong guys or Hmong females that do like kickboxing and Muay Thai, and I just feel like now, like having that opportunity, a lot of us are getting old now, so we don't have that opportunity to like go because we're getting old. But I feel like back then, man, I think we would have seen a lot more Hmong people in the Olympics. But I mean, shout out to Suni, man, she made it there, so that's good.
Yeah, opening
Mhm.
the doors for everyone.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I honestly like just on the topic of Suni, I think like, when she placed and got like her medals and gold and silver,
Mhm.
like it really opened the eyes for like for our parents seeing
Right.
like
Yeah.
they're like, oh shit, like we can put our kids in sports, like it's not just some
Exactly.
hobby no more. It's like, oh man, they could make it out there. So like again, shout out to
Mhm.
her for opening that doorway for like for not just us younger folks or for the younger folks, but for like the old folks to see like it's possible out there.
Yeah.
It's as long as you just push your kids into that, like don't force them,
Mhm.
but then if they want to pursue it, you can encourage them to do that.
Yep. I feel the same way. So it's kind of like, and then like my folks get to see like Suni's parents, like, see, look how supportive they are, and that's why Suni is where she's at. But I mean, I can't blame my parents. They didn't know. They didn't know much.
Yeah.
They grew up with knowing what they knew, but now they know,
No,
so they're trying to be a little bit more supportive. So.
yeah. No, which is understandable. I always like to kind of like see both views too. Like it's not that the older folks don't want to, it's just they didn't
Right.
know. They
Mhm.
don't know that there's opportunities like that. Even like with this
Mhm.
online shit, they right the podcast or music or being a content creator. Our parents can barely work an iPhone for all they know.
Yeah.
Like they just know like the basics of it. They don't know that you
Yep.
could literally make money off TikTok and do
Yep.
like
They didn't know that.
10-second clips. So
Or like
for them to
YouTube, they didn't.
yeah.
Mhm.
So like I which I understand. It's just it's great to see that the older folks, their minds are changing now towards like instead of just focusing on academics, they can
Mhm.
they can help their child or help whoever they want to pursue that a field in entertainment or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that doesn't mean like for the younger folks who are listening, that doesn't mean you should quit school. I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying if there's opportunities for you, you can do
Yep.
that. Um, but for my time, I want the fans to know you outside of just Muay Thai and kickboxing. So when you're
Mhm.
not doing your training or when you're not in sport mode, what do you usually do?
So I work full time. So when I'm not training, I'm working full time, Monday through Friday. And then what I enjoy doing is I actually enjoy eating. I love eating. Like I always want to try to find new places. I'm a big fan of eating like Korean food, and I love kimchi, and I love pho. So I do love Vietnamese food. So if I'm not training or whatever, then I would rather go out and find a new spot and try the food. And I also like I love boba tea, so I'll always try to find a new place, new joint to go try boba tea. Yeah, I do like traveling. I just don't have the money now to do traveling, but I like hiking. I just don't like to be those outdoorsy people with bugs and stuff. I like easy hikes. So those are the stuff that I enjoy doing outside of the gym.
Oh, that's good. I you're from Minnesota, right? Just to make that
hmm
clear, you're from Minnesota. So like I've been of course I've been there, but like I recently got to go to and try. I forgot these ramen shops names, but I've seen like more ramen shops in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So is that something that you like enjoy eating too? Like authentic ramen, like not like that packaged stuff we got at home in the boxes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, exactly. I first I went to Japan, I think in 2016. I can't remember when I went to Japan, but when I went to Japan and I had like authentic ramen, that was when I'm like, wow, okay, this is legit, it's different. And now that after my experience in Japan coming to the US, I'm like, dang, like nothing really tastes quite like it. So yeah, I'm always trying to find like a Japanese um place that can make really really good ramen, but unfortunately, I haven't found a good ramen spot here in Minnesota. But I mean I do like ramen, so just go eat.
So with the days that you have off, is there like a certain um I guess way for you to recover when you're recovering? Is it just more relaxing, or are you watching like exactly what you're eating, and like for nutrition and all that? Is there something like do you do anything specific for that, or you just kind of just do what makes you comfortable?
And I just do what makes me comfortable. Like when it's time to relax, man, I can eat. I love eating. So that's why when I have to cut weight, I'm always so angry because I don't get to eat anymore. But yeah, I don't. I just the only time when I feel like I'm watching myself eat is just during like intense fight camp, or when okay, well, fight camp is coming up soon. I need to start a little bit early. Then that's when I like watch myself what I'm eating. But if after the fights are over, bam, I just eat whatever. I really don't care.
That reminds me of Patty. I forgot his last name, but he's like the I believe he's British or Irish. He fights in the UFC. He's one of the
Yeah,
new
Patty.
guys. Yeah,
Hmm.
he yeah, have you seen his like before and after? Like his like pre-fight, how he loses all that weight, and then post-fight,
Yeah,
he's eating already. He jumps up like 20 pounds, and he's just
yeah,
like
it's
I've been watching his
crazy.
clips and videos on YouTube lately, and he's just like he hates cutting weight, but he loves to eat. And I think there
Yeah,
was like one time like he was literally eating pizza post-fight because he wanted to eat so bad. It's just that's what makes me think of when you're talking about like just eating food and right after
yep.
the fight. Oh man, that I think.
That's me.
Have you ever like
I
thought about doing
swear,
like
yeah.
mukbangs or anything like that to kind of like
Yes,
just?
I have. Like, I want to do it so bad. Like, there'll be times where I just do it for fun. I don't record it though, but I'm like talking to myself, eating but yeah, I haven't tried recording myself though. But I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to see that, like especially again, just seeing like people who compete and then just like post fight, just you see how much like how they love food so much. I think
Yeah,
that'd be like great to see that kind of experience. Like oh man, I just got done. I'm done with my fight camp. I can't wait to eat and just
yeah,
cut to, and you're at the restaurant eating, just going hard on the food.
yeah, and just splurge. I'm like, just splurge. Like after like the fight and everything, I don't know why, but I crave like soda. Like I just want to drink. I just want to drink like iced Coca Cola. Like give it to me now. Like right after the fight, I just want that.
That I think that's great to hear. Like it's so good to hear like you're not just focused on just training. Like, you want to eat.
Hmm.
I think that for me, like I love hearing that. I think that's just really great. Have you done any like I don't know if they had that up in Minnesota, but like any like sports conventions. I know that Warman did like some sort of demonstrations at like July 4th, or maybe even at was it Hmong Village? I don't know if you guys did it there, but have you done anything similar
Mm,
to that? Like just besides the demonstrations, like is there any like sports conventions at all up there?
good question. I don't know. I haven't seen any or heard of any. No.
How's it like when you do the demonstrations? I've seen clips on Instagram, but like when you have to do it and like pretty much sell the gym too, or not sell, but that's a terrible way of saying it.
Oh
But like,
yeah,
you're like
like
promoting
I
the
will.
gym.
Yeah, I remember our friend. He wanted to go showcase like the strength or like the lifting. So he asked us if we wanted to share a spot with him at the Hmong July 4th Freedom Festival. So I think going there, we weren't even trying to like sell ourselves. We were just kind of like, okay, just go in there and let's just hit pads and see if anybody like would notice us hitting pads. So we just went there, and my coach is just like, you, okay, go hit pads over here, and you like come over here. So like he would just make us hit pads, and then it's so funny because after that day, we had like some parents that came to our gym say, oh yeah, we saw you guys at the tournament, and like I want to sign my kids up. So like I think it's interesting how we weren't even trying to sell ourselves. We were just kind of went there for a workout. So that was like our first time. I think my first time demonstrating with Coach Kou. I don't know if they did it before, but our second time we did a demonstration for like a nonprofit, and I think it was like a cleanup, uh, neighborhood cleanup event. And after that, there was supposed to be like an after party barbecue, and we were just there to kind of just showcase for fun for them to kind of like see. So that's pretty much what we've done, but I don't know much about the sport convention that you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's I because I only ask because I literally just got back from like a anime convention, so
Yeah, we have
it's
anime conventions here. I know that.
I know that, yeah, Minnesota had some pretty big ones.
Yeah.
I have friends who like go and
Mhm.
cosplay and go there. There's actually like quite a few Hmong artists that I've spoken to that like go up there a lot for Minnesota
Oh,
conventions. But like I said, I only ask because I know that there's conventions for everything. There's conventions from
right.
from the anime comic books to like
Mhm.
people who sell weed to fishing conventions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I've ever seen any like besides like what the UFC or like big promotions do. I don't think I've ever seen like any real like fight conventions. That's why I only asked to see if you knew anything about that.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
sorry.
no,
Yeah.
no, it's okay. No,
Mhm.
it's cool. It's just I think that would be cool though to see like fight conventions or even
Right.
to see you and Warman at like a more like Hmong conventions, or I guess like at more Hmong events as well. Like I know that in Minnesota there's a huge music wave up there, so it'd be pretty cool just to see you guys like just at a random spot over there too as well.
Mhm. I think that's something that, man. I need to talk to my coach about that. Like if he knows anything about it, and then we need to be out there more. Yeah. I think that'd be cool to see like even other gyms there too. Like other Muay Thai gyms or other like martial arts gyms, just to be there and showcase. I think that'd be awesome. I want to go to one
Okay. Well, Maita, before I do wrap things up here, I did want to say again, I really appreciate your time here on the show.
now.
Um, you
Thank you
know,
for having me though.
no problem. Like I said, I what you've done in these past couple of years, I really hope that folks catch on to your career in Muay Thai, whether you still stay amateur or go professional. I think what you're
Mhm.
doing is great, especially again being a Hmong woman doing this. Like we don't see a lot of that. I know there's you and there's quite a
Mhm.
few other folks that do it, but I hate to jab at the music scene, okay? But I have to do it because there's so many folks who want to be singers and rappers and be in
Yeah.
entertainment. There's other avenues that we have for Hmong folks that we can pursue instead of just that.
Yes, you're
And, and
right. And I
and
think
so
that's
that's a
why like, yes, and I think that's why like I want to continue this even if I don't make it like professionally. I want to continue this down the road for our kids too, like the future generations. So they know that there's an outlet for them to to be great at Muay Thai or at kickboxing, so that they know that this is something that they can do and be great at, and not just like you said, being singers or all those things. They can do something else. They can be good at something else.
Yeah. And that's exactly why when I do speak with like Hmong folks, especially on the podcast, like again,
Mhm.
not to jab at any musicians or rappers, like what you guys do is great. It's just I think it's good to also talk about like there's other avenues open for Hmong folks.
Right.
It's not just being a YouTube star. You can make it
Mhm.
in like like podcasting or even in anime or kickboxing. There's lots of doors. It's just folks who have to be more open-minded about that. But again, I do appreciate your time, Maita. For anyone who wants to follow you, how can they do that to follow your career in Muay Thai?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram. So my name is gonna be backwards. So instead of Maita, it's gonna be ATM Vang on Instagram. Because I post up more Muay Thai things on Instagram than I do on Facebook. So yeah, they can follow me on Instagram.
Perfect. I'll have that on the description of the show notes and
Yeah.
YouTube links and all that stuff as well, so they can follow you. But again, Maita, thank you for your time. Um, if you ever want to come back on the podcast just to talk about sports or anything else outside of Muay Thai, so that you're not in fight
Mhm.
mode, or to get your mind off of fight camps and stuff like that, I'd love to have you back on.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was fun.
All right. But yeah, so make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to Spoiler Force Podcast. Follow Maita and her journey as well. And make sure to follow Warman Muay Thai. I'll have their links
Yes.
in
Yes.
the show notes and description as well. Make sure you follow the gym there. And for you Hmong folks up in Minnesota, go and check out that gym. They just, like Maita said, there's a new location, a bigger gym now, more things to do. So yeah, thank you guys and have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give a review and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want to get all Spoiler Force updates or even peeks at behind the scenes, you can join the Spoiler Force Discord community. And if you'd like to show support, give tips, recommendations, sponsorships, or any collaborations, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com.